In the smartphone world, there's this unwritten rule, right? You launch a new flagship phone every single year. But today, we're talking about a brand that's famous for breaking rules. Nothing. And they're about to make their biggest break yet in 2026.
And that's the big question, isn't it? In a market that's all about constant, yearly upgrades, why would a company just step off the treadmill? It's a really bold move, and honestly, it might just tell us a whole lot about where the smartphone industry is headed.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll get into the decision to skip the flagship altogether. Then, we'll talk about the phone that's taking its place. We'll dive into the specs and the price, and finally, look at what this means for Nothing's future.
Okay, let's start with the announcement that's really shaking things up.
Yep, it is official, coming straight from the CEO Carl Pei himself. There will be no Nothing Phone 4 in 2026. That means the Phone 3 is going to stay their top-of-the-line device for 2 whole years. The next real flagship, we're not expecting that until 2027.
And you know, this isn't just about moving a date on a calendar, it's really a philosophy. Pei is basically saying he's done with these minor yearly updates that everyone else does. For Nothing, it's not about just releasing another phone. It's about making sure the next one feels like a huge leap forward.
And this slide really lays it all out. You've got the industry way, which is like a predictable conveyor belt of new phones every year, and then you have Nothing's way, this big gamble on a longer 2-year cycle that promises something way more innovative when it finally does arrive.
So, if there's no big flagship phone, what is the company focusing on? Well, it turns out they're putting all their energy into a different device, their new star player.
The spotlight is swinging right over to the A series. This has always been Nothing's best-selling, more affordable line of phones, but now it's getting a serious promotion. The plan for 2026 is to take it from just a great mid-range phone to something that feels almost like a flagship.
And we're not talking about a small change here. The company is calling the new phone 4A a complete evolution. This isn't just a bump in the specs. They're promising a fundamental upgrade across the board, from how it looks and feels to how it actually performs. Of course, that evolution includes design. Nothing is known for its unique look. And with the 4A, they're promising to keep that vibe, but also get experimental with some bold new colors. Rumors are swirling about pink, white, black, and blue, which suggest a lineup with a lot more personality.
All right, near flagship experience sounds awesome, but what does that actually mean when you look at the hardware? Let's get into the details.
This little chart shows some really tangible upgrades. These are the kinds of improvements you actually notice day to day. A slightly bigger battery, much faster storage, and finally, an official rating for dust and water resistance. These are practical things users will feel.
Let's just focus on that battery for a sec. The officially rated capacity is 5,080 milliamp hours. Now, in the real world, that probably means the typical capacity is closer to 5,200, which is a really solid size that should get you through the day, no problem.
And that storage upgrade, it's a much bigger deal than it looks. Going from UFS 2.2 to 3.1 is a major jump. So what does that mean for you? Well, it means apps load faster, files move quicker, the whole phone just feels snappier. That's a huge part of delivering that near-flagship feeling.
Better materials, faster speeds, more features. It all sounds pretty fantastic. But, you know, in tech, there's always a trade-off. So what's the catch?
And yeah, the catch is the price. Nothing has already said their phones are going to be more expensive this year. But they're arguing it's not just them. They're pointing to this huge market trend where the massive demand for parts from the AI industry is creating shortages and just driving up costs for everybody.
So let's pull back from the specs for a minute. This whole decision isn't just about one phone. It's actually a really important move and a much bigger plan for the company's future.
They're calling this whole thing Phase 2. And the idea is to go from just launching cool products to building a mature, long-lasting brand. That means opening actual physical stores to connect with customers, and it means continuing to support their existing phones like the Phone 3 with big software updates. Basically, they're in it for the long haul.
When you look at this timeline, the whole strategy really clicks into place. This isn't just some random decision. By putting this gap year in 2026, you can see the pattern they're creating. Nothing is setting its own deliberate rhythm for flagships, one that's totally separate from the rest of the industry.
And we also have to remember what happened with their last flagship. The Phone 3 was, well, it was polarizing. A lot of people pointed out that it had a pretty high price for a processor that wasn't exactly top tier. That reaction almost certainly pushed them to pause the flagship line and just double down on the A series, which has always been their best value. It's a smart business move.
Which brings us to the ultimate question.
In a market where being seen is everything, is stepping out of that annual spotlight a brilliant move to build hype and deliver a better product? Or is it a huge gamble that could let their competitors get even farther ahead? Honestly, only time is going to tell.